Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. I'm Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every morning by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking this morning. And, guys, let's just jump right into it. Movement already. We've been looking at this every day. You know, it opened at 16 down to 13.5. My question is, do you think we'll see that?
or why is it moving down? Obviously, the money going towards the Razorbacks right now. Jerry, there hasn't been any news of note of any significance. We'll get a injury report later today, or tonight is the first one of each week, every Wednesday night. But I think that people are recognizing this is a rivalry game. Texas has been somewhat hit or miss on offense. Arkansas can be much tougher to play at home. People remembering the Tennessee win there with their backup quarterback in the game, by the way, beating Tennessee in that. So I look at it, and I think that Fayetteville can be a tough place to play. It's a rivalry. The points in that regard are going to squeeze at times, and we'll see whether or not Arkansas has what it takes. I mean, they're fighting for bowl eligibility as well, Jerry.
Yeah, and look, Blake, by the way, I like your hospital voice, very calm and cool. And because if you're loud and everybody starts peeking around the corner, right? But look, the one thing with this game that I think is going to be major, outside of obviously it's going to be a raucous home field for Arkansas. Arkansas is not good in pass protection, and I'm not saying Texas has what Ole Miss has up front to get to the quarterback. They have really good players and are really aggressive with that scheme, that front seven. But that Arkansas right tackle is going to have issues against Texas, in my opinion. And I think the Texas pass rush can be a pass rush ability, disruptive ability can be a big deal in this game. I think the line started high because nobody knew where Taylor Green was going to be, right? And then he practiced, and Sam Pittman put that out, so that line quickly dropped a couple points. But when I look at the game for Texas, handle Landon Jackson. If you handle Landon Jackson, the rest of their defensive front's going to remind you of Florida. Their linebackers are going to struggle in coverage. And if they don't fix their secondary issues, Texas Quinn's going to have guys wide open to throw it to in this game. Then on the flip side for Arkansas, their offensive line it can really struggle in pass protection and disrupt Taylor Green's timing. And Taylor Green is already not an accurate quarterback naturally. So if they can disrupt his timing, then I think those are ways, clear paths for Texas in this game.
Hey, and I just want to say the reason I was quiet is right when I started, 3 people walked in the room. I'm doing this from the break room.
I love it.
So yes, I was a little more quiet than usual but it was on purpose. So.
Hey, Jerry, there's been some big recruiting news going on of late too. Before you get to that, I want to say thank you to one of our sponsors. That is Adam Lowy of the Lowy Law Firm. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, make sure you guys give a Lowy Law Firm a chance to earn your business. They've been helping injured Texans for more than 2 decades now. LowyLawFirm.com. Thanks again, Adam, for your support. Jerry, when we talk about recruiting right now, it's we've been focused a little bit on guys out in Tampa. There's 2 of them right now that you talked to one of their coaches last night, another one yesterday or the day before. Texas could go 2 for 2 in Tampa with Grayson Littleton, the cornerback, and Kellen Wiley, the linebacker. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we'll see what happens. Look, we're not far off from December 4th. We'll see if the visits still happen. With Kellen Wiley scheduled to go to Miami the 23rd through 24th. So if anything happened to where he moved off that, he's obviously going to go to Texas, but you'd expect that to play out until December 4th or right around there. Grayson Littleton, I think Texas is in a pretty good spot, but obviously Michigan is right there fighting. Michigan's been on him longer. There's some news yesterday. People were asking about Jamie French. Jamie French is taking a free trip to Florida. He's not going to Florida. Miami would be the threat in state. His teammate, good friend, quarterback, current Florida State commitment, Tramel Jones, who's out for the season, by the way, really kind of disrupted Mandarin season, even though they got a freshman quarterback that's going to be a really good player, has Power 4 offers. But he's going to go to Florida with his buddy, who Florida's been trying to flip from FSU for a while. So, but a lot of these recruitments, they're going to go to December 4th. I think Michael Terry, Grayson Littleton, we watch those to see if they actually go to December 4th. But the other big recruitments all look like they're headed to Joseph Mbach, to Javion Hilson. You go down the list of guys, they all look like they're headed to December 4th.
Michael Fasusi, maybe.
Yeah. Look, Michael Fasusi is A&M and Texas are both after Michael Fasusi. I would say, and there's communication, hope on both sides on that, or people are feeling like, oh, this could actually has a better shot at happening this week than it did 2 weeks ago. I think from the A&M side, I think there's some things there within the NIL representation that would favor A&M.
Interesting on Fasusi. I would add this. He's currently committed to Oklahoma. Right. Oklahoma's president did Brent Venables no favors yesterday, even though I think he attempted to. You don't give your head football. If you're the president of a university and you have to give your football coach a vote of confidence, that ain't good. It's one thing for your AD to do it. It's another when your president of your university has to do it. And that's what happened yesterday with OU and Brent Venables. I tell you, Jerry, I wouldn't have thought this a couple of weeks ago, even after they were flailing, to be honest with you guys. OU was. I thought that they would, probably stick with Venables the whole way through. The issue that's going on right now, he's getting ready to clean house on some assistants, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, I'm hearing, is that may not be enough. OU fans that watched the Missouri game on Saturday night against with OU, I think they saw some things that they don't know that they can forgive of their head coach. I'll just put it that way. Really not a smart decision by him in how he approached the end of that game. And I think that some people are getting a little restless there in Norman. So I know he just signed a contract renewal last year, an extension, but just telling you, they go 5-7. They're off this week. They've got Alabama at home on the 23rd, and then close at LSU, I believe, on the 30th. Jerry, they lose those two. I
see two major issues for Venables right now. One, he's going to lose both of his last two games by double digits, and if not 20 plus in both those games. And one of those is going to be at home to a first-year head coach, Kalen DeBoer. And I know he went to Alabama, but look, it is what it is. Brent Venables took over at Oklahoma on a team that was very highly competitive, right? Those are the issues I see for him. I think he's going to lose by up to 20. I could see Alabama beating them by 21-24. Then you go to Baton Rouge, and LSU is probably going to beat them by double digits as well. That's an issue. The second, maybe this is the biggest issue, though, is it maybe not. I mean, if you're 5-7 at Oklahoma in year 3, that's the biggest issue. But what accelerates things is when Texas is really good. Now A&M's good. At LSU, if they beat you, LSU's probably going 9-3. So you're surrounded by teams in recruiting that are on a different trajectory than you are.
Arkansas and Missouri, if you want to get really big on it, Jerry, Arkansas and Missouri are neighboring states, and they're better right now. If you just lost to Missouri, Arkansas is going to have a better record than you probably.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just, because they remember, OU could go into Kansas City, go into St. Louis and grab a couple players every so often.
Yeah.
That is a reality of sorts. What did Bobby mean by how they ended the game on offense versus Missouri? They tried to drive the length of the field with Jackson Arnold at quarterback, a turnover machine. And Jackson Arnold fumbled, and Missouri returned it for a touchdown. That's what I mean. At one point during that game, Oklahoma, according to ESPN, had a 98% chance of winning the game. Missouri scored 2 touchdowns in under 2 minutes left to play. One of them, Jackson Arnold, gifted to Missouri. So it was just ugly. Horns 7 asked me, can NIL save OU and Brent Venables? Maybe, but look, it's not like they didn't spend money on Dominic Williams last year, guys. It's not like they didn't spend money on Jackson Arnold or Deion Burks. You know, OU has spent some money on these defensive. David Stone, Jaden Jackson. They've spent some money. The issue is their coach let go of the wrong quarterback, and ultimately he's paying the piper for that. So I look. I don't know what's going to happen. I think it's unlikely that OU makes a change at head coach this year. But I'm telling you now, one more really bad loss, Jerry, where they don't just lose, but it looks very John Blake-ish, like it did on Saturday. For those that don't recall, John Blake, that late 90s coach for the Sooners that just did not have it together for OU, probably the worst head coach in OU history. But
yeah, I mean, we're having fun with this, but I do want to say this too about OU. They lost their top 5 wide receivers for most of the year. I mean, like, they had no chance offensively. I mean, just for the people that think that's not a big deal, Isaiah Bond's gone. Matthew Golden's gone. Ryan Wingo's gone. Who else? You want to keep naming them?
Silas Bolden would have to be gone. You know, I look, I hear you.
I mean,
I want to say this:
the top 5 receivers off a Texas team, they have 2 more losses this year.
Okay, I don't disagree with that.
So
but
it's
quarterback is still Jackson Arnold. He had 2 of them back on Saturday, and he still looked like. I mean, they scored offensive touchdown to the 4th quarter.
Yeah,
I mean, so he had 2 of them back. Deion Burke's a good player, by the way, really good player.
But I mean, their problem is they messed up at quarterback, obviously letting Dylan Gabriel walk. But I just want to say, I do want to say that. I mean, like, take your top 5 wides, or okay, take your top 4 wide receivers and Gunnar Helm off of Texas. What do you look like on offense? Now, it's not the same because they messed up at quarterback. But I do think without the injuries, Oklahoma's probably more of a 7-5 versus 5-7 team. I think that's a difference in 2 games. And then you're talking the difference between not firing a guy and him getting year 4.
Boy, they almost lost to, was it Tulane? I mean, I don't know if they're more 7-5 than 5-7, Jerry. Not with Jackson Arnold at quarterback. I mean, I think Jackson Arnold's going to have a hard time ever winning more than 6 games as a quarterback, given that he is Teddy Lehman and Gabe Eichert, they're 2 of their former players that have a podcast. They called, quote, Jackson Arnold, and this is a quote, a critical mistake machine.
No, there's no doubt.
I mean, you're what have you. I think
the question. I mean, Nick Anderson before the season's a 1st, 2nd round NFL draft grade guy.
Yep.
Jaden Gibson had 8 touchdowns on 20 catches. I mean, like, so do they beat Missouri with all those guys healthy? Probably. I mean, because Missouri's playing without Brady Cook, but injuries happen. But I'm just saying it's amazing. And look, I get it what people are saying, but they've had significant injuries at wide receiver that have cut their chances of even having a 7-5 season to me. But at the end of the day, you have to win games. Nobody really cares. And the thing that could get Venables here if it doesn't end well is, again, Texas is really good. A&M's on the right track with Elko, obviously. LSU, I mean, lose to Missouri. I mean, look, Kansas City, you got to recruit well in Kansas City if you're Oklahoma, too. You lose to Missouri in ugly fashion. Everything's going against him keeping his job right now.
All right, guys, we got a hump day with Hills coming up here shortly. But first, I want to tell everybody about Tile, and the holidays are upon us. Thanksgiving's just a couple of weeks away, and then, of course, we march on to Christmas. And while it's the most wonderful time of the year, it also presents a ton of challenges. Whether you're staying at home or traveling, it's busy season, and keeping track of what matters most to you this season can feel more hectic than merry. So stress less this holiday by stocking up on Life 360's Tile trackers. When you're worried about your family's safety or something goes missing, all you have to do is just use the Tile app. I personally use it to keep track of my keys because, well, my wife and my oldest son seem to sit them down in a different spot every single time. I'm busy. I don't have time to turn the house upside down to find them. But with Tile, I don't have to worry. I just ring my Tile when they go missing, or I can even track their location on a map. And you can also add your Tile trackers to your Life 360 and see your family and all your family stuff in one spot. So family-proof your family with Life 360's Tile trackers. Visit tile.com today and use promo code ONTEXAS to get 15% off. That's tile.com using promo code ONTEXAS for 15% off. And it looks like Tony is here. So I'm going to add him to the mix. How's it going, Tony?
Man, what's going on, Blake? Hey, man, you did a wonderful job on that promo. They need to give you a raise.
You understand? I appreciate it.
Well, what, you missed your workout this morning, Tony? You're normally in your workout gear.
Oh, no, today we getting sexy, baby. We getting sexy today, Jerry.
Well,
yeah,
you know,
after
I
that
can't
sexy win we just had against Florida, we getting sexy today. This is in honor of my Longhorns. What's up, Longhorn Nation? Wake up, baby.
Hey, Tony, thanks for joining us, bud. Give us your thoughts on that Florida game a little bit. The guys up front, and I think this is one of the bigger takeaways for me a few days afterward, is the guys up front on the offensive line, by and large, and it was singled out by Steve Sarkisian, gave Quinn Ewers some time in the pocket. The Gators pass rush got home just once, but otherwise Texas had all day to throw against the Gators.
Hey, listen, you want to know what Texas offensive line did? For the past few weeks, they've had their glasses on. You know what having your glasses on is a representation of, Bobby? It's a representation of being Clark Kent. But against Florida, they came out those glasses and Superman came out. Let me tell you something. Dominance. I seen guys get moved off the ball. I seen the line of scrimmage being established. Listen, at the end of the day, we knew what Texas was capable of, man. It was just about being able to put it together. And what do we talk about? When the defense does their thing and gives turnovers, execute points off of the turnovers, the games are not going to be close. We saw what that looks like. And here's the thing. They're still searching for that complete game, but getting back against Florida coming off of a bye week, you know, you can kind of be a little rusty. I didn't see any rust, man. Guys went out there and got it done. And so proud of those guys, man. And I know that everything's right in front of them. They got a huge test this week. You know, listen, I don't care what records are. It's rivalry again. And that stadium is going to be rocking. So I'm looking forward to see how they answer the call against Arkansas. But I'm excited. Man. Good job.
Hey, Tony, did you notice that Sark didn't use condensed splits as much? Was that easier for the offensive line to pick up blitzes, or limited maybe Florida's opportunity to blitz?
Yeah, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, so great point. Splits are important because it gives the offensive line not just time to move within a short period of space, but it also allows them to see what's happening, right? So I'll give you an example. Florida ran a lot of TE and ET stunts, right? And they used, whether it was, they were running it from conventional looks where they would have, 4 down, or they would have what we call 5 down, where all 5 of the linemen are covered up, and they would bring some other linebacker up. So in their nickel 4-2-5 front, they had a linebacker over the left guard, and they ran a TE stunt. Because the splits were not condensed, you saw Banks and the guard be able to set back vertically, right? So it's an easy pass off. When you're tight inside of the box, it's hard to pass those stunts off, because what happens is as a lineman, you're getting edged. And so as an offensive lineman, you can never get edged, right? If you're going to get beat, you want to always get beat outside. And on twist stunts, you can never get edged, because the edge is what happens. The edge is what allows for the pressures to come when you're passing off. And we saw that when you look at in the first quarter, you had Cam and Campbell. When they got beat, it was because they put the sack on Campbell, but it was Cam's fault because he set at a 45-degree angle as opposed to setting vertical. You always have to set vertical on 3rd and 10 with blitz pressure looks, just in case, right? So you want that inside filler arm to be able to snatch the tackle or the linebacker that the guard is passing over. So you want to be able to snatch him and bring him in to establish that dominance. And now we have the edge, and it's an easy transition for the guard to now take the looper. Anytime these guys are in trouble, Bobby, it's because of the technique aspect. They're not getting dominated. So yeah, to your point, that's a long-winded way to say, yes, great job by Sark and great job by Coach Flood by noticing that and to keep that up, because there's no need for tight splits unless we're doing, 4th and inches, or we know it's a rundown and we got to get it. You know what I mean? Other than that, we always got to take those 2.5-foot splits.
Yeah, I think it's also not having the tight end in the H-back role, as well as a 12 personnel look, and getting those linebackers where they have multiple different looks, and Quinn having to figure it all out really quickly. What else did you see in that game, Tony? By the way, for those of you unaware, this is Tony Hills we're speaking to, former Longhorn great as well as former NFL player. He joins us each and every Wednesday on Hump Day with Hills. Tony, what else did you see from that Florida game?
So what I saw is a team that was locked in and focused. When you talk about, so let's talk about offensively. When you talk about the pocket was pretty clean, right? I saw Quinn getting back to doing what he was doing at the beginning of the season, and that's stepping up into the pocket and finding the lanes. Even pulling the ball down, during the time where it was coverage. There was a 3-man route that they ran. Florida dropped 6. There's nobody open. You take off and run. He almost gets the first down. So seeing those type of plays, it showed me that the guys were locked in. Defensively, I saw what I always expect to see. These guys get after it, man. To me, they're the number 1 defense in the country. I don't know what the ranking is on that, but I mean, when you look at them in totality and what they're able to do, the amount of takeaways that they have, the being able to be interchangeable at position, they have position flexibility. They're fluid with the way that they disguise coverages and then they come after you. I know when Florida was driving, we had a safety come, from depth and be able to tackle Warner when he didn't, when he couldn't see the blitz because the blitz were disguised. So I saw a lot of things that were positive. If I'm looking at critique, then coming back to my guys being in the trenches, the only thing that I would say is we got to understand situational football, man. Like, when it's 3rd and 10 and we're blitzing, we got to make sure that we're on point with our sets. We got to make sure that we're on point on pass offs on games and not getting Quinn Ewers hit for no reason. Some of the hits that he took, they were. I saw 2 of them that were on us, and so we can't have that. But overall, man, I saw a dominant performance, and that's what we expected to see. I expected to see that coming out of a bye week, so they gave me exactly what I was looking for.
Hey, Tony, I got a question for you. I asked Brian Robeson yesterday. Because I asked the chat a couple days ago, rank the rivals of the 3 in your order of hate: A&M, Oklahoma, and Arkansas.
A&M, and A&M. No, I'm just listen. No, so it was always going to be OU for me first, right? Yep. And then A&M comes after that, and that's just because it's in state, right? And then from a history standpoint, you take Arkansas. And to be quite frank, it's a little biased because I only got to play Arkansas once, right?
And that was the reason I asked the question. You guys didn't play Arkansas, so it's like the rivalry's been lost a little bit, right, Tony, from the Southwest Conference days, because you guys didn't go up against Arkansas. Yeah, no,
I only played them one time. We went there in Fayetteville. And they came to Texas, but I was being recruited. That's when they had was it Peterson?
Matt Jones.
Yeah, they had Matt Jones, man. It ended up being a pretty decent receiver for the Jaguars. But yeah, and then when I got there, then we played them there in Fayetteville. So that's the only time I had any experience with them. But OU every year, you know how it goes. And that game swings momentum one way or the other so much, during the season. So it'd have to be OU for me.
Hey, Tony, I wanted to ask you this. I wanted to follow up on what you said about the splits in the offensive line. And I'm asking this because A&M has a really good defensive front, which Texas will go up against. But why is that important for you when you kind of look ahead, like looking back at the Georgia game and then looking ahead at that's the next big time defensive line Texas plays. How is that impactful for you looking at playing against a really good front that has multiple NFL guys?
It gives you space, right? You're able to see what's happening. If I'm too tight to my guard, first of all, you can get stepped on. So that totally throws the play off, right? So let's just talk about the obvious. But secondly, if I'm too tight to my guard, I don't have any space to move. And when you're dealing with a front like Georgia, they got guys. I mean, these guys are top end picks. So they got guys that can get off the ball quick, right? So when you're able to spread out, like think about this, Jerry. Remember Texas Tech? You remember how big Texas Tech splits?
Widest split you'll ever see.
Exactly, right. They were on one side of the earth to the other, and the reality is it takes that much time, especially if you're a quick pass offense, to get to the quarterback. So you're not going to be able to affect the game up front. With us, by being able to take those splits, we run a vertical horizontal offense, right? So if I'm 45 angled off at my guard, now you got me in my stance. If I'm 45 angled off at my guard, right, that means that the defensive end that I have, he has a longer pathway that he has to take to get to the quarterback. If he decides that he wants to spike inside, I can easily make that adjustment because I have room now to be able to maneuver how I need to. So if an end is giving me an up and under, going up the field, trying to stop on a dime to get back inside, I now have the move to be able to drop step and then shut that inside move off. And without having to worry about running into my guard in those particular situations. So I like that adjustment. And here's the thing, I'm glad you guys are bringing this up because it's those small nuances that make a big difference. That's the attention to detail. This is the reason Belichick has all of those Super Bowls outside of Tom Brady, is because of the attention to detail, being able to find the small nuances of the game that most people are overlooking and taking advantage of that. That's what they did.
Let me follow up. How does that affect you in the run game in a positive way? Or does it?
Yeah, no, like in the run game, I mean, the holes are automatically opened a little bit more, right? Because of displacement. All I got to do now is stick and stay, and we already have, a lane for the back to run in. So, all in all, I think it's a good move. I want to continue to see that more and understand. Like it's just things that these are telltale signs for defenses, right? But at the end of the day, who cares? Like if it's 30 inches, we're going for it. For instance, 4th and 1. I don't want wide splits on 4th and 1, especially if I'm on my 30. Which
yes.
That's crazy. that Sark called that play, but he was rewarded because of it. And we got movement and we got displacement. So, I like what I'm seeing, and I can see that was something that they went back and said, you know what, let's try this. Let's get Quinn back to doing what he does offensively, stepping into the pocket, reading the coverages, taking off with his feet if he has to. Let's get the offensive line splits right, and let's get them going. And I told you guys this last week. Let's get them going north and south.
Yeah.
Let's get them going north and south. That was a major key. Bobby asked me what I saw. I saw more of that. I want more downhill running. And we got to see our guy Gibby get out there and do some things too, which was good.
Yeah, good stuff. Hey, Tony, you look at Texas right now, they're 8-1. You've been on a team, a couple of Texas teams that were really, really good at this time of the season. What is the focus? If you're, how do you maintain your focus this late in the season when everyone around you is talking about, back in the day, it was, the BCS, but now it's college football playoff. How do these players maintain focus and go week to week and make sure they're given 100% against Arkansas? And then after that, they're making sure they give everything against Kentucky, then A&M, et cetera, without slipping up. I mean, that's a difficult task. What is it that you're hearing or have heard that in a locker room that makes you stay committed to the task at hand?
It starts with your leadership, right? So, I came under Mac Brown, and the thing that he would always say is don't bite the cheese, right? We're not as good as we think we are. We always have ways to improve. And I think that mentality of understanding that we have a long way to go before we get to where we want to go, it keeps you locked in, it keeps you focused. So it starts with the leadership. From a player's perspective, I mean, Listen, at the end of the day, you respect the game too much and know that anybody can be beat. So for you individually, it's about every day, week in and week out, being locked in and paying attention to the details, respecting your opponent, understanding that, you know, and especially when we talk about the SEC, Bobby, every week it's a possibility. Every single week there's a possibility that the giant can fall. And so for the players, I don't think they pay attention to the writing. They're not looking at that stuff. You know, they're not paying attention to social media, man. It's too much work to be done. And you guys know, like I know, man, if you're working hard, man, sometimes you even forget to eat. You know what I mean? So like, just imagine when you have everything right in front of you, you literally control your own destiny. I don't think they're paying attention to the noise. And then the leaders in the locker room, it starts with that as well. Being able to let them know, hey, look, man, we got a long way to go. So now we got to put together every day. We got to make sure that we're locked in and we're sharp in practice, right? So that's where it starts. Then when we're sharp in practice, then we got to make sure that we're sharp in the film room. Then we got to make sure that we're taking advantage of recovery, rest, right? All of those things. Because at the end of the day, there's a moment right here in front of us right now that we have to capture. I remember us on a national championship run, man. That was something that VY preached. Like, look, man, we got to take care of ourselves. We got something to do. We were always talking about being legendary. We were always talking about being great. And so if you want to be legendary, you want to be great, then you got to go out there each and every day and you got to prove yourself. You got to be locked in. And so because of that, I don't think that Texas falls into that trap. I think that's more for us, right? The people on the outside.
Yes.
I don't think Texas is listening to that.
Hey, we got a pretty funny question from the chat for you.
Come on, chat.
Gregory Burke, Tony Hills, did you prefer wearing 66, 76, 78, or 67? Hey, by the way, what number did you go in high school as a tight end before you get into your OL numbers?
98.
98. Okay, I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Listen, man, 6'6" in the mix, man. Those double sixes, you know, those double sixes, man. Whew, and that black and gold, that was tough. That was tough. I'm gonna go with 66. That was my number, man. I like.
So, like, how many jerseys?
Back.
How many jerseys do you have on a wall? Do you have a jersey with every number on your wall somewhere?
No. I have them. I have the jerseys framed, but I haven't put them up yet.
Okay.
I had them. That's not true. I just lied. I apologize, Jerry, for lying to you. I had them in my office, but I moved offices, and so now they're framed, and I'm looking at. I'm going to get another office. But yeah, the Texas jersey is up for sure. Pittsburgh jersey has to be up, right? Because you know both of those jerseys made me champions. And then I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack from somebody on here. Maybe not. We're in Texas. The Cowboys jersey, I got the Cowboys jersey up too, right? And I know, Jesus, this is why I come here every Wednesday, guys, because Texas is the only team right now that's giving me feels when it comes to winning. Dallas needs some help. I want to see Texas. I want to see the Texas Longhorns versus the Dallas Cowboys for the SEC championship.
Hey,
Tony,
it's
up 15 points.
Tony, here's another good question for you. Do you think Cam Williams, the young right tackle for the University of Texas, should return to school next year? What are you seeing? Okay, go for it. Yeah, I'll let you answer.
Absolutely. Listen, is he a talent? Yes, but he needs more ball. He needs more ball. And what I mean by that is there's certain looks that you have to see as an offensive lineman. There's certain players that you have to play before you want to take a leap to that next level. Is he talented? Yes. But there's nuances to this game, man, that goes beyond just talent. Like you have to have a mind. Like you have to have a pass set plan, right? And some of the times when I see him out there, there's I'll give you an example. If I have a tight three is a defensive tackle that's shaded on the outside shoulder of the guard, right? And I have a tight 5, right? That means that the defensive end is shaded on the outside shoulder of the tackle. There is no way in human hell that I need to be setting on a 45-degree angle, widening out the set. I'm leaving my guard out to dry. And I've seen him do this time and time again, because he's looking at the one-on-one matchup and not understanding, hey, man, it's 3rd and 8. We're on the opponent's 38-yard line. They're a high-pressure team when we get past the 50. we need to make sure that we set vertical to pass off the potential ET or TE stunt. And that sometimes is how we get beat. We get edged, right? So as he's setting on a 45, here comes the end. He's trying to come down and he's getting picked by the defensive tackle. Now DJ Campbell is trying to catch the looper. And what do we see on tape? We see DJ extending to the looper and the looper making the sack. And we're saying DJ gave up that sack. No, DJ didn't. Cam gave up that sack because he set the wrong way. And so those are the things where I feel like come back, get that professional coaching from Coach Flood, take your game to the next level from a mentality standpoint, right? From the mental aspect of the game, right? And then go out and do your thing next year. Now, here's the thing. That's from a football perspective. I don't know his financial situation or anything like that. I know those things play into it. I know it did with a lot of our guys, right? So, but just from strictly from a football perspective, I think that it would be well for him to come back his senior year and get this thing done.
I think it's a great answer, Tony. I really do.
Here's a good question.
Both things do matter, right?
Yeah. The best DN you faced in college, Pastor Hills.
Oh, best DN I faced in college. Oh, easy. Michael Bennett. Jesus.
Oh,
Michael Bennett, by far.
Really
that dude, because he's strong. He's not that big, but he's strong and he's shifty. He's more powerful than he looks like, and he has some good get off, and he had great bend. I hadn't really faced defensive lineman that had a bend like he did, so he gave me some challenges, man. And even in the pros, when I played against him, I was like, man, I got to figure you out. But he ended up moving to DT, Jerry. So then I was like, all right, well, that's
a good one. All right, Tony, we appreciate you so much for joining us. We'll be looking forward to next week. Good luck to the Longhorns on a Saturday as well. I know you'll be watching. Hopefully the offensive line does exactly what it did against Florida and gives Quinn Ewers some time to protect again this coming Saturday. Hook 'em, Tony. You be good, buddy.
All right, man. Hook 'em, guys.
All right, take care. Thank you so much. Tony Hills. Big time knowledge being dropped there for On Texas Football fans. We appreciate Tony very, very much.
Absolutely.
As well. All right, Jerry, it's that time for you, my man. You ready?
Yeah, I'm always ready. Look, I mean, everybody needs to take the the Texas team, take the 5.0s to Fayetteville, but you're not using them. You're leaving them. All right, everybody, this episode's brought to you by Manscaped, the global leader in men's lifestyle and grooming. Every man knows the unbeatable feeling of a fresh barbershop shave. Now, what if I told you that you no longer have to wait weeks or months between appointments to experience it? Introducing Manscaped's latest release, the Chairman Pro Package. The all-in-one set includes everything you need to recreate the luxury of a professional shave right at home. Whether you're after the daily silky smooth finish or prefer to maintain a rugged 5 o'clock shadow, the Chairman Pro Package has you covered. Head over to manscaped.com and join the over 11 million men worldwide and growing who trust Manscaped by using code ONTEXAS for 20% off plus free shipping. Again, the Chairman Pro Package. Go get that thing today at manscaped.com. On Texas, all caps, 20% off plus free shipping with that code ONTEXAS.
All right, guys, we got more questions, more super chats to get to. But first, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone out there about Tecovas.
Yeah, I really love these boots. Tecovas is a new sponsor of On Texas Football. Texans know that anywhere worth going is worth going in good boots. A lot of you guys going out, going deer hunting these days, getting ready to do that, going out on the town as well. Tecovas are boots that can do a little bit of everything. They're handcrafted with every stitch on point. Tecovas boots are made for a good time and a long time. I personally love the fact that they're already broken in for comfort right out of the box, and Tecovas make it easy for anyone to find their favorite boot with all kinds of sizes and styles. Tecovas are simply the best boot around. I really like that they can either be daily boots or you can feel dressed up with them. Right now, get 10% off at tecovas.com/Texas football when you sign up for email and text. That's 10% off. That's a good deal at tecovas.com/Texas football. With Tecovas Best in the West guarantee, you also get free returns, and exchanges for 30 days. Basically, you know that you can trust their word when you see their product. Tecovas.com/Texas football. See the site for more details. Tecovas says, point your toes west. Texas-based company. Love them.
Thank you, Bobby. And guys, we got some super chats. We got more to talk about. I want to start with this one from Trace Little. He said, I heard OU is going to look at hiring Tom Herman.
Ugh.
Yeah, I know. He's obviously joking.
How to Run the Quarterback into the Ground by Tom Herman. That's the book title.
Yeah, obviously not happening. If Oklahoma made a move, it'd be interesting to see do they just go to South Carolina and get Shane Beamer? That'd be interesting to see what they do. Do they make a run at Lane Kiffin if he's not at Florida? Kurt Signetti? That'd be interesting to see what they do. Because if, in the crazy world of college football nowadays, if you could snag Shane Beamer, does Lenore Sellers come with him?
Or those defensive ends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lenore Sellers is a good player. Those defensive ends can change too. Yeah. South Carolina is better situated on the offensive line than OU right now is too, by the way. That's another piece of the puzzle. Yeah. OU's not hiring Tom Herman. Not unless they want to, Tom Herman's going to be looking for a job, though, I think.
The one thing about Oklahoma job is Jimmy Sexton doesn't run their hires. That's what makes them different.
That's true. Not historically, at least.
No.
Now that they're in the SEC, you don't know.
Yeah.
Our next super chat, fellas, comes from Bevo72, and I actually want to use this to transition into our next segment. He says, good morning from Georgetown, Texas. Football is in a good place today, ranked third in the country. Enjoy the ride, but never take it for granted. Have to earn it each and every day. Hook 'em and beat the Hogs. And that's one thing that we haven't talked about this morning is, and by the way, thank you, Bevo72, but the college football playoff rankings that came out last night, guys. As you can see here, Oregon #1, Ohio State 2, followed by Texas at 3, and then Penn State, Indiana, BYU, Tennessee, Notre Dame, Miami, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Georgia make up your top 12.
I'll let Bobby talk about Texas because I'm going to take exception with something else with this committee in a second that I think.
I think that 3 is what we thought they were going to do whenever Georgia lost. No doubt about it. And Miami lost. Texas was at 5. Texas moves up 2 spots ahead of Penn State and Indiana. The thing that I would, and I don't know if I'm going to steal your thunder here or not, Jerry, but Indiana and BYU both they escaped with their lives on Saturday. Correct?
Yeah.
Michigan and Utah. Okay. They jumped Tennessee. Now, how did that? Tennessee won without their starting quarterback on Saturday by multiple scores against Mississippi State. So how does Indiana, who survives over Michigan, and BYU gets Kevin Marr, thanks to Kevin Marr, maybe survives? How do they jump after one game over a Tennessee team that wins by multiple scores? I don't know. That's the only thing I would say of that. I am concerned at this point that unless Notre Dame, the way it's configured right now, it looks like the Big Ten is going to get 4 teams in because not enough of them play one another.
Blake, we're going to look at the bracket next, but I have something to say here.
Okay.
And I'm not saying the committee, it's not a hard job. And I get where they're going with the 0-loss or 1-loss teams. But to have Miami Hurricanes over Ole Miss or Alabama right now is insanity. Ole Miss would beat all the snot Miami has out of the Hurricanes if they played tomorrow. They would beat the dung out of them. That is ridiculous that Miami is ranked ahead of Ole Miss or Alabama. I mean, they would get their ass kicked in those games. And I know they have a tough job. I get it. And I know there's a bunch of former college coaches on that the rankings committee. They need to do better than that. Ole Miss would beat the snot out of Miami tomorrow. So that ranking's just blatantly wrong. And I know they have to go by losses on some level. But how many points would you give right now if Ole Miss played Miami tomorrow? 28? 21, 28?
At least 14.
I was going to say about 17, 18.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alabama. Miami couldn't tackle Jalen Milroe if they had 15 players on the field.
Well, who would you pick if you had Indiana or BYU against those three SEC teams there? Alabama, Ole Miss, and Georgia.
Yeah.
Right in a row.
Yeah.
They would be, both of those teams would be double-digit underdogs to any of those three teams, in my opinion, if you went to Vegas. So 5-6 jumping Tennessee was ridiculous, because then it sets them up to say, oh, Indiana still belongs in the playoffs, even if they lose by 40 to Ohio State on Saturday. That's what kind of, it was real evident they massaged that, in my opinion.
And by the way, and I know you have to rank these high, and I think Ashton Janty's a tremendous player, but Boise doesn't have a G5 is going to be in the playoffs. That doesn't mean they have to be ranked 13. They beat Nevada 28-21 at home the other night. 35 scored a late one. A&M would beat Boise by 21 because Boise couldn't do anything on offense against them. I mean, South Carolina would beat Boise by 2 scores because that defense would dominate Boise, and that quarterback couldn't get away from that pass rush. So I get why I get where they're going, but you have to have a G5 in the playoff, but you don't have to have them 13 if they couldn't beat the teams below them. And South Carolina and A&M would smash Boise up front, smash them. So it doesn't matter how good Ashton Janty is.
And before we look at the bracket projection, I want to take the super chat from Jay Lee. And Jay says, if you were ranking the top teams based on how complete of a team they are, who would be your top 3 to top 5? And I'm going to put the bracket or put the rankings back up.
Wow. You know, I think Oregon is the most complete team in college football right now. Ohio State's offense has been hit or miss against better opponents. Texas certainly fits the criteria of a complete team because they rank reasonably high on offense, and they rank elite on a defensive perspective. I think Ole Miss is playing that way right now. More so, I think Alabama still can get got on defense. Most complete teams right now. I don't know that other than the top 3, I would put any of those in the top 5, if that makes sense. Except for maybe Ole Miss. Like I think Ole Miss right now should be rated, and I know this, I would put them number 4 in the country. I'm just gonna tell you that they've got 2 losses, but they beat Penn State, they beat Indiana, they beat BYU, they beat Tennessee, they beat Notre Dame, they beat Miami, and they beat Oklahoma, or in Alabama. I mean, correct?
Yeah, and look, that's what makes it fun. This is where college football is going to be at. There's not a great team this year, right? And I'm not sure there's going to be great teams anymore because of the portal. But look, it's going to be, this is the way it's going to be. This is why college football is going to be great. Yes, I know Boise played Oregon close early in the season, but that doesn't mean they'd match up right now with these teams up front, because Oregon doesn't have the up front talent to make Boise suffer. It's, in my opinion, I think this is what makes college football great, though. I have some passion with this, but it's what makes it great. SMU has hope. Indiana has hope. I mean, we're in a different game. Boise can actually make a playoff now. But if you were saying who's playing the best football right now, I mean, Ole Miss played the best the last 2 games, but that's just 2 games.
I'm going to put the projections up here, and this is the bracket projection.
Bobby, this goes to your point. 4 Big Ten, 4 SEC, 1 Big 12, 1 ACC, Notre Dame, then G5. That goes to the point. So again, where it gets interesting for the SEC is what if you have 5, 10-2 teams at the end of the year? Will it happen? I don't know. It's possible. But you need to cheer for SEC needs to cheer for Notre Dame to get upset by USC. Else you're going to have then you have a little chaos in the SEC because you could have 5, 10-2 teams, or maybe a 10-3 team after the SEC championship game for 4 spots. So that's where it gets fun and chaotic.
Long story short here, look at this, Jerry. You know who's not in this 12-team bracket?
Georgia.
Yeah. Amazing. If they were to miss out on the playoffs 2 years in a row, I would say that Georgia, Tennessee right now, that game is going to decide which one of those two goes to the playoffs.
Yeah.
In my opinion, because the negative here is that Nico apparently is in concussion protocol, by the way, but expected to return for this weekend as of right now. But he got knocked out. I mean, Heupel kind of fibbed on Saturday night when he said, "Oh, well, we think he's okay," and all this other stuff. Apparently, he's in concussion protocol.
Yeah.
So we'll see what comes of that. Look, if you want to be, if you talk about a 10-2, 5 10-2 SEC teams, okay, the only way 5 10-2 SEC teams get in is if Notre Dame, knocked out by someone like USC.
And so by this, ESPN's clearly predicting right now Tennessee beats Georgia this weekend, Texas beats Texas A&M, right? That's what they're predicting out of this, and Miami beats SMU. I don't think that's a given, by the way. So obviously if Georgia beats Tennessee Saturday, Georgia's going to replace Tennessee on that ranking. But the interesting thing to me is, look, we could be headed to 5 10-win SEC teams, and maybe one's 10-3 after the SEC championship game. That's the other question, Bobby and Blake, in the chat too, you guys. If a 10-2 team loses in the SEC championship game and falls to 10-3, should they be left out, and are they going to be left out? That's another place it gets interesting, right? Because is it an advantage? Is it going to end up being an advantage, Bobby, to be 10-2 and not playing the SEC title game?
If you had a good late season win like Alabama did against LSU,
Ole Miss,
yes,
Ole Miss against Georgia,
they're in as long as they just hold serve.
Right?
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
They don't have teams left. Right?
I think the committee says, "Oh, they won't be penalized," but you can't. When you say that, when all these rankings start, when you make that statement, one thing you aren't taking into account, because you're not really thinking that way at the time, is what happens if there's 5 teams for 4 spots? Does then that team that loses in the SEC championship game get knocked out because the other teams are 10-2? I mean, that's what's going to be interesting, and that's what makes this fun. Because just think of the NCAA basketball tournament every year. I mean, one of the after the bracket comes out, Dick Vitale for years has talked about who got left out and why they should have been in, right? And that's what makes all this fun. But we're headed to the possibility where if Notre Dame doesn't get upset, the SEC could legitimately, the way things are breaking right now, you would think Alabama is going to be 10-2. You would think Ole Miss is going to be 10-2, right? I think obviously if Texas wins this weekend, in which they're favored, and they should beat Arkansas, but if you play the games, that because it's a road game, it's a rival, I don't think Kentucky has enough juice to beat Texas. So Texas, if they win this weekend, is going to be 10-2 at worst, depending on what happens in the A&M game. If A&M, obviously, if they win, beat New Mexico State, and then Auburn, they have to beat Texas to get the 10-2. I mean, so we're not that. If Georgia beats Tennessee this weekend, and then Georgia's done with conference play, they have UMass and Georgia Tech, both home games, by the way. I mean, you're sitting there with a scenario where you could have 5. There's a really good odds you're going to have 5 10-2 SEC teams right now. It's great. It's great for the SEC, but somebody's going to be pissed.
If there are 5 teams that are 10-2.
Yep. All right. Jackson S has a super chat. Thank you, Jackson. He says, got a gut feeling if Boise wins out, they get a bye. Don't trust Miami, SMU, and BYU are going to win out.
Concur. You can't trust any of those 3, Miami, SMU, or BYU. You just can't. BYU, if they play in the Big 12 championship against Colorado, is going to lose, in my opinion, and lose by 2 scores. BYU is starting to revert to mean, if that makes sense. They're starting to come back down to earth.
By the way, Carlos Hernandez, what about Missouri? Man, I mean, South Carolina is going to beat them in Columbia Saturday. That's officially going to knock them out. I mean, Brady Cook being injured obviously doesn't help them because he's got some Sammy E in him as far as a competitor that absolutely loves playing for the team. His team he grew up loving. That's not going to be enough for them this year.
They somehow get past South Carolina, though, Jerry. Only other team they got to beat is Arkansas.
Yeah,
at home.
What I saw, and maybe I'm underestimating Missouri's offensive line, but what I saw against A&M for Missouri's offensive line, those South Carolina edges are going to be high-fiving at the quarterback Saturday.
But Boise State is legit. They are much more than Janty. They have problems throwing the football, guys. Yeah. I hear what you're saying. They are more than just Ashton Janty. I don't disagree. Not a great throwing team. So if you can stop the run, you're going to beat them if you're a big-time team. If you're the top, if you're a top 5 team, you're going to beat them if you can stop the run. Hey, before we get going here today, I want to say thank you to our sponsor, Adam Lowy of the Lowy Law Firm, is sponsoring all of our Wednesday morning coffee and football episodes. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, make sure you reach out to Adam and his group for a free consultation, no strings attached. Give them a call. Reach out via loweylawfirm.com. You can get the answer within the day and get to talk to someone. Again, loweylawfirm.com. Thanks, Adam, for your sponsorship of Coffee and Football.
All right, guys, we got a couple of supers to close out on. And I'm going to start with this one from Jack. Thank you, Jack. He says, Jerry, how come you're not on the road this week? But I also want to add Jason Washington's comment in. He says, Jerry, I get to watch Ricky Stewart in action this Friday. I'm on the referee crew for their playoff game.
There you go. Yeah, well, I just got off the road, so we're here this week. It's big signing day week, obviously, around college athletics. I'm here this week. Got one special to me today that got some stuff to do with around signing today. But look, I want to say this: Texas basketball signed John Clark today. The early signing period starts today, so you'll see Texas volleyball, baseball, right, Blake, soccer. There'll be some signings we'll be talking about. Obviously, I want to mention Texas basketball beat one of the worst teams I've seen in a while, Chicago State, last night. They were so bad, Trey Johnson didn't score 28. He didn't play long enough to, but he was 4-6 from 3, blah, blah, blah. But Texas won against a horrific team last night. They have one more warm-up game, Mississippi Valley State, before they go play Syracuse, who's squeaking by people up in Brooklyn next week. Tremont Mark, likely possible to play against Syracuse next week, trying to get him back for that game. But Texas basketball won. Signing day today. It'll be a big day on the 40 acres. We interviewed the soccer coach, Coach Kelly. Big day for University of Texas athletics outside football today. There's a lot of talented future all SEC Olympians, whatever you call it. A lot of people signing with Texas.
Hey, I want a special shout out to the new swim and diving coach, because he's getting all kinds of commitments right now.
A gold medal winner, right?
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. He's doing his job.
What'd you do in the portal? I got a gold medal winner.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, Jerry, just to talk a little smack before we get this last question, I just want to say this. I heard I entered the portal and was going to cover Florida State.
Yes.
I'm officially back. I'm officially back. I did not go to Tallahassee. So I did not go there.
I wonder if Jimmy heard
all the help they can probably get at this point.
All right, our last one comes from Brian. Brian says, would Texas match NIL for Michael Fasusi if needed? You have to have elite line play in the SEC. The Georgia game showed you what you need.
I think that, look, these guys are, the bids for these guys aren't different fundamentally. You have to recruit them and find out where they want to be first. That's the piece that it's not whether Texas would match or these guys all. I try to explain this to people, and I have a saying: the color of everyone's money is the exact same. Okay, that means no matter where you go, it's going to be about the same. You know, one place it may be $19.95, another place it may be $19.99. Okay, it's about the same. These guys have to figure out where they want to go. And of course, Texas is going to be among the top or in that range, undeniably. They always have been and always will be, in my opinion.
And then one other one. Josh Marquette says something is happening today, huh? I think you mean
personally.
Yes, yeah.
Jerry has someone close to him who is signing a scholarship today.
Yeah, D1. Yeah.
So that's what that means.
Not Texas.
Question, by the way, has Texas played from Jason Rhodes? Has Texas played a dual threat QB like Taylor Green? I don't think they have. The closest would be Michael Hawkins 2 years from now. Michael Hawkins in 2 years will be very similar to Taylor Green. But so the answer is no, they have not.
There you go. Go ahead, Jay.
Brian Alfaro said he asked because I mentioned in Aggie NIL package. I didn't mention I wasn't talking NIL package. I was talking representation.
There you go. Okay, guys, well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. We want to thank them along with Tecovas, Tile, and, of course, Manscaped, all for sponsoring today's show. Bobby, what do you have later today?
We've got the state of the program. Jerry and CJ will be doing that today. We also have the live stream later tonight, as well as several other things. Make sure you guys hit the like button and subscribe. Also, a lot of recruiting information going on. Jerry, you were posting news and notes up until 10 o'clock last night. There's going to be more coming out today. We are exactly 3 weeks away from National Signing Day, December 4th. Make sure you get a subscription to ontexasfootball.com. Just $39.95 a year. You can visit there all times a day when we're not on video or doing podcasts. Use the code OTFOG. It's the best deal out there by far. $39.95 for a year when you use that code on TexasFootball.com. Jerry and CJ with some recruiting news and notes this week.
All right, well, we will be back same time, same place tomorrow. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.
Hook 'em, guys. Have a good one.